Hello, 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 beautiful souls. Welcome back to another video. We are now moving on. We've already made one video for, actually a few at this point that I haven't posted yet for chapter 6. I was in the midst of making them and I stopped to give you guys all of the archetype definitions. So to me, I've already read a few, but we are on the next section of chapter 6 and we're going to talk about the 3-column model that the author has created. And of course, we're still talking about the chakras, and the author refers to them as our spiritual backbone in connection with our sacred contracts. And of course, we're still reading Sacred Contracts, and it is still written by Myss. So after I read the first section in its entirety, I will show you the 3-column model, okay? All right. Although the chakras appear to progress in a logical fashion from bottom to top, a shift in energies occurs between the 3rd and 4th chakras. This change is so clearly defined that I consider the 7 transitional chakras actually to be 2 distinct perceptual systems within the human psyche and body. To illustrate this configuration, I divide the chakras into 2 columns. The first one, or the left-hand column, contains chakras 1, 2, and 3. The second column, chakras 4 through 7. And then there's a third column, which contains just the 8th chakra, which she's referring to as our archetypal dimension. The 2 teams of chakras function on very different levels of consciousness. The first column chakras are aligned to physical power and the physical plane of life, to the experiences that concern our survival. So those are going to be the root, the sacral, and the solar, which are connected more to being grounded here on earth. And then from the heart up are the more spiritual chakras, and the heart connects all of them when we're just talking about the chakras in general. They are fed information by our 5 senses. How much power we give to money, sexuality, authority, fame, control, social position, and other manifestations of our physical world is regulated by these 3 energy centers. The second column chakras are aligned to the internal forces of our minds, hearts, and spirits. I refer to this column as a person's internal laboratory because these chakras resonate with the energy dimensions of life. A symbolic line of separation exists between our sensory experiences and our internal lives. We are often unaware, for example, that our response to external objects is the result of emotional and psychological projections that come from a repository or personal experiences. We view physical reality through an elaborate set of internal filters that prevent us from seeing things as they really are. In studying how emotional stress and trauma leave their marks on our physical biology, I have learned that healing requires a merger of these 2 polarities of the psyche. Your internal world has to find a way to build a bridge to your external world so that you can see through to the truth that connects your intentions with what you actually do. Archetypes are the most effective bridge between these worlds that I have found. Identifying them and working through the information inherent in each of your chakras will help you see your life more clearly. The archetypal patterns are represented by the 3rd column, so that's the 3rd that only contains the 8th chakra. Together, these columns illustrate the 3 levels of consciousness through which we experience reality. The first column signifies our physical lives. The second column denotes our psyches and spirits, and the 3rd column contains the archetypal coordinates of our sacred contract, the 8th chakra. The 3 columns represent how we function simultaneously on the physical plane, the internal plane, and the collective symbolic dimension. Once we are awakened to something, a truth or an injustice, we are held accountable and we must take action according to that truth. We cannot ignore or suppress that awareness. There's no going back. Once we acknowledge a truth to ourselves at the conscious level, our lives will change dramatically and quickly. If we become aware, for example, that forgiveness is the higher truth or the higher path than vengeance, a part of our psyche and soul becomes relentless in reminding us of that truth whenever we must choose forgiveness or vengeance. When it comes to soul knowledge, we are born already knowing what we need to know. Okay, so here we have the 3-column model, and I'm going to try to show it to you and not let the light get in the way. I hope you can see that. Okay, so the column on the left is our tribal external necessity. So these are the chakras related to and keeping us grounded to the physical plane. And when she says tribal, we're talking about our family, our loved ones, our friends, our community, and the collective all together, the collective consciousness. So the first chakra is related to family and survival. That's the root chakra. The sacral plexus, money, sex, and power. Then we have the solar plexus, which is connected to our self-esteem. Then we have the line that separates. Then we go to our individual or internal choice, which is the heart chakra, which we're starting at the top. So relationship to the divine. Chakra number 7 is the crown chakra. Then we have our third eye, which is our intellect and our wisdom. Then we have our will, choice, and self-expression, which is our throat chakra. And then we have our heart chakra, which is our emotion, love, and forgiveness. And I apologize. I think I read these in the wrong order the first time. Chakra 3, because she's starting from the top down. So chakra 3 would actually be the solar plexus, self-esteem, the sacral plexus, money, sex, and power, and family and survival root. I don't know if I said it that way, but that's the correct order. And then we have our symbolic archetypal compassion, which is the 8th chakra. Okay. The 3-column chart, exploring your triple vision. So we're going to read about that, and then I will share with you the 3-column chart. With the 3-column model, you can begin to perceive and function simultaneously within the physical, internal, and symbolic dimensions. You can develop this triple vision by using the 3-column model. In essence, triple vision is the ability to remain centered in any situation, whether it be joyous, disturbing, or neutral. It will give you poise and perspective. When you can translate any physical experience into archetypal coordinates, you are able to understand your emotional responses to that situation. For instance, I once became involved in a heated exchange at a workshop with a woman named May because she felt that I was not honoring her wounded childhood. Immediately, I recognized that from an archetypal perspective, I was speaking with a child, although May was at least 40 years old. Based on that archetypal impression, I modified both my tone of voice and my vocabulary. I knew that reasoning with May would not accomplish anything because children cannot be reasoned with when they are angry and in need of emotional support. I remained present and sympathetic while she cried about the abuse she had experienced. Once she had vented those painful feelings, however, she relaxed and we were able to proceed in a more adult fashion, looking for something positive that could be salvaged from her memories. And I do have to say that working in healthcare and probably just working with the public in general, I think a lot of people can relate to this, but I think especially in healthcare, you get a lot of patients or family members that might be disenchanted or disappointed, frustrated, afraid, upset, and sometimes all they want to do is just be heard. They don't want you to tell them why things are the way they are or explain things or make excuses for things. They just want to be heard. And so you kind of have to, I'm not going to say match that level because you don't want to match a toxic thing with another toxic thing or rudeness with rudeness. Sometimes you have to match them on the level of what do they need? Not I'm going to give them back what they're giving me, but what do they need? Do they just need to be heard? Do they need to say what they need to say? And it's amazing when you do that, you get a few different things at the end of that conversation. You'll usually get the person either apologizing for yelling at you and taking it out on you, or you'll get somebody who is thanking you for allowing you to just say what you need to say. And I've learned a great deal to do this, especially over the last year in dealing with patients, whether it's on the phone or they walk up angry. And a lot of times my coworkers will have me call patients that have been previously difficult with them or combative or rude. And they'll say, they never act like that with you. Can you call them? And I go, sure, I can call them. And I call them and they'll go, well, how did it go? I didn't hear anything. They'll be listening like, what is my tone on the other end? And they never are not surprised that I get a different person. Now, it may start out that they're acting the same way, but what I give back to them allows them to kind of not react to me in the same way. And that's something that I'm actually very proud of, because it's not always easy, especially when you're being yelled at or cursed at, or you're being blamed for something that isn't your fault. You understand at some point that it has nothing to do with you, and you don't take it personally. And that's really tough. And it's not excusing someone's behavior and saying that people can act that way and you're just supposed to take it. There is a fine line, but very rarely does somebody cross that line and get to a point where you actually have to go, you know what, I'm going to hang up on you. I've never really had to do that, maybe once in my 20 plus years of doing what I do, but I hear other people do it quite frequently. And I feel like if they see what I do and they wanted to try to apply it themselves, their response from the person would be quite different. Okay. Often when I interact with someone in the audience for more than a few minutes, other people become restless and irritated, even though I use all interactions with individuals in a way that serves the entire group. The anger that sweeps through the audience in those moments is rooted in childlike feelings of neglect. I am not attending to them, and so they become resentful. Several times I have asked my audience if the reason they get irritated when I'm speaking to one person is that they feel mommy likes her better. And even as they laugh at this question, they inevitably acknowledge that it is exactly how they were feeling. The 3-column model gives you a way to consolidate your many perceptions into a higher power prism that reveals the symbolic interconnection of your experiences. This is actually the intent of a spiritual practice, to see through the seeming disorder of everyday life, past your illusions and into the underlying divine order. The lens of the 3 windows helps you ignite spiritual alchemy, the process through which we convert physical perceptions from their laden manifestation into their highest expression, the spiritual or golden level. Take a look at the center column in figure 3, and we're going to do that in just a second, which represents your inner self, your inner laboratory. Here you take the raw experience of a relationship or a job and melt it down. You add the catalyst of choice, the desire to raise the experience to a higher level and see its underlying purpose as part of your contract. This molten combination of perception and will determines how you direct this informed energy alloy into a final physical conscientious action or symbolic insight, spiritual gold. All right, so here we have the 3-column chart. So let me finish reading this little section and then we'll go over it because that will help us understand it more. This chart is just a small sampling of how things appear different depending on your level of perception. The first column lists how the world is ordered according to your first 3 chakras. So the way you're going to perceive things if you're living and operating out of your first 3 chakras, the sacral, the solar, and the root. The second column represents the fluid perceptions of chakras 4 through 7. So the heart, the throat, the third eye, and the crown. And the third column represents the realm of symbols, imagery, and your spiritual nature. What looks to be an ordinary relationship in your physical world might well be highly significant when seen from an archetypal perspective. Okay, so in chakras 1 through 3, in column 1, that's the root, the sacral, and the solar, the way that we view things in the world, depending on how we perceive things based off of these chakras, basic survival, irrational group mind, external, we're looking at things externally, literal, a literal view, lead, so heavy, ego, job, matter, so the things around us physically, necessity, social chaos, sight, control of others, time and weight, and this means how heavy something is, five sensory sight, seeing things with only your five senses, coming toward me, what's coming at me, the past, and local, so just what's right around me. Now, column 2, which is chakras 4 through 7, we have higher perceptions, the rational self, internal, emotional view, alchemical lab, the self instead of the ego. We have career, we have energy instead of matter. We have choice instead of necessity, personal confusion, sensation, not sight, self-control rather than control over others, a timeless wait, W-A-I-T, so a never-ending wait, multisensory sight coming from me, future and non-local, so within all things. And then in the third, chakra 8, we have symbolic sight, divine logic, archetypal, looking at it from an archetypal view, gold, soul, vocation, divine light, compassion, divine order, perception, surrender, simultaneity, holographic sight, coming through me, now and fully present. And when you look at the categories across the board from each chakra, how interesting it is when you look at it and you see the change in verbiage. So the first thing under chakras 1 through 3, for example, is basic survival. But for chakras 4 through 7, it's higher perceptions. And chakra 8 is symbolic sight. So you go down and you see literally the growth in using these chakras according to your sacred contract and viewing them in that way. We are all under divine observation. Our motivations are under the looking glass, even more than our choices or actions themselves. With the 3 dimensions of perception, you can consciously work with your choices as a spiritual art form, aiming to transform them into gold. The consequences of your actions will exceed this lifetime. To start working with your own perceptions in order to turn them into gold, draw a 3-column model like the one on page 191 in your journal and list all 8 chakras. Then proceed to the following exercise. So let me just show you page 191, which was this first one. So I'm going to show it to you again because she wants you to draw this and hopefully you can see it. And hopefully that was long enough to pause it and actually see this. And now there's an exercise. I think this exercise, I really don't want to break it up because it's all together and it is a little bit longer. So if I read it, it's going to just be a ton of information in one video. So I'm going to stop right there. And in the next video, I'll hold up that little table again, that chart that she drew, and then I will take you through the exercise. This way you have all of that together in one video. So we'll go ahead and just stop right there. All right. Thank you so very much for joining me. I love you all very much, and I will see you all again soon for the next video. And of course, until next time, take care of yourself. Take care of those around you. I will see you all again soon. Take care until then. Bye-bye.